It's just banal. The evil is banal. It's like meaningless.
Welcome to our hen house. I'm Jasmine Singer.
I'm Mariann Sullivan, trying to remember to smile. I'm on YouTube.
And this is Murray. And this is our Hen Report, which is one of the episodes that goes up every week now that we're on 3 times a week. How's that going for you?
All hens, all the time. That's your new life.
There was this one time many years ago where you and I wanted to have a YouTube show called Vegan Wine, but we wanted
totally
to whine.
forgot that.
Like all we wanted to do was whine about things that annoyed us.
It's kind of what we
And-
do. It's kind
And we told a friend of ours who worked in media, and she was like, "No."
that's a terrible, terrible idea.
She was like, "No."
We
you
were.
have to
I
be
think we were going to drink
positive
wine while we
while
were
whining. Yeah.
I think it's brilliant.
Well, we could have been something, you know?
Yeah,
Anyway.
could have been a contender.
It could have been. So as you know, Rising Anxieties comes out on Tuesdays, the Hen Report on Thursdays, and the long-form interviews on Fridays. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. Even if you're not watching on YouTube, it really helps a lot. So I wanted to tell you that I went to a baby shower on Sunday, and I
I hate
have never...
parties. Like, why do people have parties?
Well,
I just hate them.
because they like them.
I
That's why
know.
people
I
have
like.
parties.
I was born on the wrong planet. There's evidence every day.
Well,
I
so
don't think I've ever been to a party that I enjoyed.
Okay, well,
I really don't. All right, go on.
all right. So, what
And,
about
and baby showers are particularly dreadful because they have games.
But what about that birthday party that was at your house that you hosted for me that had an improv expert where we did improv? You didn't like that?
I hate improv.
I know.
God, like people think they're funny and they're not.
Okay.
It's true. People think that they make up funny stories, but I don't understand it at all.
Listen,
I mean, occasionally it's funny because occasionally everybody's funny.
As the 1996 improv champion of New Jersey, I must change the subject now because this is offensive to my inner soul and my inner child. So I went to a baby shower. I've never been to a baby shower before, I think. I don't think I ever have.
You've
Unless
never
I
been to a
blocked it
baby
out.
shower? Lucky
I don't
you.
think so. But this one, I just want to tell you one part of it. So it was,
Do they still have baby showers? Don't they have like gender reveal parties now?
I think that's separate. I think that there's that and this. And I don't think most people do gender reveal parties. I just don't think most people do that. And what an asinine, stupid thing to do.
I don't know. I mean, I've only read about them like, you know, when they blow up the backyard or something.
Exactly. But so this was vegans hosting it. And I'm pretty sure that Moore and I were the only non-vegans there. I mean, whoa, hold on.
The truth comes out.
No, that was not
Wow.
Freudian. I am very much a vegan and have been for 20 plus years. I swear to God.
She is.
Anyhow,
I
think we were the only vegans there aside from the people throwing the party, our friends.
It is odd that they're vegan and they like all of my friends are vegan.
Well, they're also queer, and I think we were the only queer people aside from them.
Huh?
So it was an interesting sort of heteronormative, like meat-eating crowd, and all the food was vegan and amazing, like truly.
Well, they're very.
Food.
I know the people who gave the party, and they're very good cooks.
Food. Right, very good cooks. And
they're not the kind of vegan I am.
No, order Chinese food.
Yeah, at best.
Yeah. Actually, it's text me and ask me to order the Chinese food for you.
It's not true. I've literally never done that. Never.
Well, no, but like if we're coming over and we're going to order in, you ask me to do it. Sure you do.
No, I don't ask you to do it. If you're coming over and you want to bring Chinese food, you do the ordering. Okay. It's true. So I don't call you up and say, order me Chinese food. Right. I'm going to start now. Since you think I do, I might as well.
Okay. So this is what I wanted to say. There was not any like pin the pacifier on the baby game, but there was trivia.
Pin the pacifier on the baby? That sounds very violent.
I made that up. I don't know if that's a thing. But
horrifying.
there was a trivia game that was all vegan themed, and it was fantastic. It was like amazing vegan activism. I have to tell you, it was like
Oh,
so
that is
they
smart. If
and there were
if
a
you
lot
have a
of people there
situation in which you can force non-vegans to play a game,
while eating vegan food.
yeah, no, that's smart.
And there was trivia, like there was an app that it comes with. And so we had the app, like, so everyone's like using the app with their phone while there's a screen that has the questions and you click the right answer. And in real
Wow.
time, it shows you who won.
This is very
And so,
elaborate.
and they didn't even put the questions together. Like their meat eating brother put the questions together. And the questions were like, the average American gets X amount of fiber per day. How much does the average vegan get? And it was like significantly
Like
more.
42 pounds.
Yeah. And then it was like, which of these words is made up? And it was like aquafaba and then a few other funny words. And then like and it was like people were really into it. Like there was no making fun ofness. And Maura and I won. So
Unsurprising. You did kind of have an edge.
we won popcorn salt, like fancy caramel popcorn salts.
Oh. First,
Yeah.
I thought you meant you won salt, which
Do you
would
know when
not
I
be
put
that
it
great.
on? So I went
Caramel
like
salt does sound delicious. Like those are two delicious flavors.
So that night I'm like, in the basement hanging out with the kitties, and I'm like, I wonder if you can air fry apples. And I Googled it and you can air fry apples. So I was like, I have to go. And I go upstairs and I air fry apples. And I was like, I'm gonna dip them into peanut butter. And Moore was like, put the caramel salt.
Oh my God.
And it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so good.
I'm gonna air fry me some apples.
You got
I have to actually go to the store and buy some apples because I have absolutely zero food in the house.
Yeah, I'm not even remotely surprised.
I hate going to the store.
I have to tell our listeners that
I hate parties. I hate going to the store. I hate places where there are humans.
Okay. When we were just jotting things down that we wanted to talk about on today's Hen Report, at the same time, I wrote down baby shower vegan quiz while you wrote down addressing the banality of evil.
I think they're kind of the same thing, to tell you the truth.
Oh my God. Okay. Address the banality of evil.
It was just
what you got?
I just jot down thoughts sometimes thinking about doing the Hen Report, and I just started thinking about my activist. And I guess somebody mentioned the banality of evil in some context, and I started thinking of it. And of course, it's a phrase. I'm sure it was a book. It was a phrase for which the philosopher Hannah Arendt is very famous, and she wrote about it. She used the phrase, which became very popularized when she was writing about the trial of Adolf Eichmann, who was a high-up Nazi who ran the concentration camps. And he was put on trial. I actually remember the trial of Adolf Eichmann. It was in the 60s. I don't know whether he was imprisoned all that time or whether he had escaped and then he was caught. I think he was tried in Israel. I don't remember it well. I was actually quite young because I think it was in the early 60s too. But I'm pretty sure I remember it going on. It was a really big deal. I didn't know a lot about it because, like there's some stuff about concentration camps and Nazis that you probably shouldn't tell 10-year-old children. Anyway, so her point is that Eichmann and loads of the other people who ran the concentration camps and did other things within the regime, I guess, were like really ordinary people. They had ordinary lives. They had nice families. They loved their families. They just were regular. So she came up with this phrase, the banality of evil. Like we tend to think that people who are evil or doing evil are going to be obvious monsters in some way. And, we identify certain people. I'm not going to mention the most obvious one because I don't want to go there. Is really weird and actually kind of monstrous and saying crazy things and whatever. But really enormous, enormous amount of evil, and this is certainly true when it comes to animals, are just like everyday people, thinking that, all right, this is what I do. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is what they tell me to do, just following orders. I think that one actually came from that situation. And everyone else is doing it, so that's what I do. And that's what creates the system of factory farming and the horrendous evil that we perpetrate against animals. And I guess the thing that it wasn't just that I had this random thought, it's that I am getting more and more in my personal attitude, like unbending, uncompromising, just
In what way?
I was saying, a few weeks ago, we should come up with a religion in which we make it clear to people that if they continue to eat animals, they're going to hell. This is evil. It's a sin. They're doing it. They know what they're doing. It's wrong. Like, I have that attitude. And I understand that, I probably do things too. And this is how people are. And evil isn't what they are, but it's what they do. And if you do it, even if you don't think of yourself as evil, even if you think that you're a really nice person, even if in many, many, many ways you really are, you're still doing something evil. That is my attitude towards it. I do not think that that is necessarily good activism. And, the whole line in activism nowadays is much more meet people where they are, like.
With activism or specifically with animal activism?
Oh, animal activism. I think animal activism it certainly encompasses climate. It encompasses a lot of things that aren't specifically animal activism. And, I think that most people have the attitude like, you would never call somebody evil. You meet them where they are. You encourage them to cut down. You encourage them to, like, make reforms, and you try to find compromises. And, like, yelling at people. And I mean, I don't yell at people. I couldn't be bothered. But, telling people they're evil is definitely not. They're just going to shut down and they will never listen to you. And I think that's true. It's just that I don't, that's where I am right now. It's just hard. It's just hard. You reach a certain point in life and like playing the game just becomes harder.
But do you recognize that these are like complex individuals that are making an evil choice, but are not necessarily inherently evil themselves?
Well, that's what I mean. I think that they aren't necessarily inherently evil. And I think that's probably, I'm not sure that's what Hannah Arendt was saying. I'm not that familiar with the way she wrote it. But in talking about the banality of evil, I think she was saying that in other ways in their lives, they were nice people, doing nice things, having nice families. And so evil, it doesn't really matter that much whether evil is something you do or what you are. Like what does that even mean? I think that kind of what I'm saying is that I just can't get away from the feeling anymore that this is evil. And they are deliberately participating in it. I don't sit in judgment. Like, that's not what I want to do. I mean, maybe I am sitting in judgment, but I just think it's like we're so worried about sitting in judgment on people and being judgmental and being that vegan. But the fact is that it's evil. Like what we do to these animals is wrong.
Let me tell you something. I was at a book club the other day that I just joined. I've never actually been in a book club before, and this is like theater people who I know in the area. So I'm the only vegan, and they were very, accommodating, but like that's an understatement. A lot of people went out of their way to kind of challenge themselves. In fact, I remember talking when I was in the last play I was in, Body Awareness, that there was a cast member who just reacted so strangely to my veganism. Well, this person was at the book club and she was like, I was at the grocery store, like Googling, how do you make a popcorn ball vegan? And I got like the vegan butter and the vegan marshmallows and I didn't know. And then she goes,
and sometimes it is exactly the people who are acting weirdly.
Yeah.
They're acting weirdly because they're, you're disturbing their thought processes and it's actually having an effect on them.
Right. And then she goes, and the internet said some vegans don't eat palm oil. And then we got into, I was like, well, okay, let's just pause. There's a lot of non-vegans who also don't eat palm oil. It's not necessarily always
you always have to have to like.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway,
but I sympathize. I mean, she saw that article
it was
and she was concerned. Yeah.
It was very moving to me. It was very moving. But anyway, so we wound up, because of the book we had read, we wind up talking about like kind of what you're talking about now. And someone said like kind of offhandedly that life is pain and fear. It's just full of pain and fear. And then someone else said, well, that's, I'm not sure if I see it like that. I feel very detached from if it's pain and fear. I just feel like life is, and that you're the person kind of adding the layers to that baseline of just isness, which was a very, Buddhist perspective. And so I said, well, I think life is pain and fear. I think that's obvious. Like, I think and of course I'm thinking about the animals and I'm like, I think life is pain and fear with a lot of joy in it, with moments of joy for many, many individuals. But in saying that, I'm not saying that like the understanding that life is pain and fear dictates how I go about my life, dictates my mood or the amount of suffering I'm in. It's just to me information that can impact how I show up in the world. And like, I'm not that deep about this kind of stuff. So I don't know if this resonates at all. But when you know what's going on behind closed doors to animals,
They know.
it's widely
They know.
accepted. They know.
And
The life.
just like, Eichmann and the other people who ran the concentration camp, they knew what was happening.
Oh, you mean the
It
people
was
in my
their
book club?
job. And so they were okay with it because that's what they're supposed to do. That's exactly how people are about animals. It's just banal. The evil is banal. It's like meaningless. And I'm not sure any of these people, whether I'm talking about the Nazis that we're talking about or people eat meat, they don't think they're doing anything evil. So
Right. No, of course
maybe
not.
we should tell them. I know, it's bad activism.
What do you think I should have done at the book club? Like, just been like, well, you're all evil. I guess I eat my vegan popcorn ball. I mean, this is more of like an ideological conversation that we're having right now
Yeah,
than one
I
that
don't know, like, I don't know what the activism output is of these thoughts. I really don't. That's how I started. Like, I
yeah,
I don't think we have a way to be good activists and express these thoughts in a way that does anything other than shut people down. But I'm just saying it's my truth. And as I get older, it's harder and harder for me not to say my truth and just act
yeah.
like it's all okay. I guess that this was a large part of the thinking behind that project. Was it of DXE?
Mm.
Where you decline to sit with people who
Oh,
are eating animals.
the vegan pledge. I don't
The
think it
vegan
was
pledge. It
DXC.
wasn't DXE.
May,
Okay. But the
no,
vegan
maybe it
pledge,
was.
yeah, where
Maybe it
you
was.
just decline, you're not mean to people, you're not
No, it
hateful to
was. It was.
people,
You were right. It is DXC.
but you decline to sit with them while they're
Mm-hmm.
eating animals and you explain to them why.
Well, I have to tell
I
you,
mean, that does go along with this because,
for
it's
sure.
basically you're using your actions and not angry words to tell them that you think this is wrong. I mean, maybe wrong is a little softer than evil, but I like that word evil.
I'm picking that up. 98% of the food at the book club was vegan. There was like a cheese cube thing, but I had brought Miyoko's cheese as well. And everyone sort of politely tried it. But anyway, there was this dip that someone was like, it's vegan, it has beans, this and that in it. She's like, I made it vegan. And I was like, oh, okay, are these crackers vegan? I could have picked up the box and looked, but like my hands were full. And she's like, oh, I don't know. And then one person picked it up and looked at it. It was like, yeah, it's totally vegan. And so I grab a few crackers, I put it in the dip, I eat it. And then I look and I'm like, it's totally not vegan. So I was sitting there and I'm like, damn, and then I just thought, I'm just not going to say anything because to me, that's the vegan choice in that
Yeah, you
moment. I
see
don't want to make it look difficult.
that I would agree. Like, there's no point in making a fuss about that. I'm talking about making a fuss about the big concepts, not about whether something is perfectly vegan. That I think can be counterproductive. I mean, I'm fine
Mm-hmm.
with if people want to do that. I have no problem with it. But that's not so much what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the big picture, the keeping quiet about how terrible you think this behavior is. Anyway, we have taken up a lot of time. We promised we were going to keep these episodes short. I think we should move
Yeah.
on to the news.
Yeah, let's do. Do you know that song? You and I love to sing this song. It's going to get us into the first article here. Moving to the country, gonna eat a lot of peaches.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that song. All right. All right. Not a cheerful story about peaches. This is from the counter. Last year's salmonella outbreak linked to peaches may have been caused by quote unquote fugitive dust. This is by Jessica Fu. And you know how it often happens that there are salmonella scares about various foods of plant
Yeah, I hate
origin,
that.
even though salmonella comes from animals. And it's usually greens and lettuce. And that makes sense because the water is, can be contaminated and they're often near factory farms that contain animals. And so it all makes sense. But apparently, last year there was this salmonella outbreak with peaches, and a lot of peaches had to be recalled, and 100 people got sick. I don't think anybody died. And this is just a theory. They're trying to figure out how it happened. And, people theorized, well, it was in the water, so it got into the tree. And they said that that's not what happens. But they think that it may be in the dust from the factory farms. So,
Wow.
like, you know how your mom always told you, you wash your fruit carefully.
I never do.
Yeah. Well,
I
it's covered.
never
It's
do.
covered in shit.
I most of the time don't wash it at all. I admit it, and I'm sure that's horrifying. But now I'm going to because ew, that's gross. And that's the thing, right? That industrial ag doesn't just harm the animals and the climate, but it has tentacles everywhere, including
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
innocent
In
looking stone
peaches.
fruit. Oh,
No, it's just horrifying. And of course they're talking about like fixes for it and what could be done. And I don't think anybody's talking about the industry paying for these fixes. As usual, it's either going to be probably the peach growers or the government talking about ways to minimize the dust from factory farms. Disgusting.
All right, well, let's move on. This is
All right,
also
another
pretty
disgusting
disgusting.
article. This happened a while ago, a few weeks ago, and I don't think we talked about it then. And Kenny Torella just wrote an article about it. So I just thought that I would bring that to people's attention. It's when those 4,000 chicks died in the mail. And people always, every time it happens that chicks die in the mail, people act like they're completely shocked. But it happens all the time. Frequently, it's a huge, huge number because they get left there. Apparently, they were left over the weekend without water, food, or temperature. And there were 14,000 altogether. And apparently they're trying to find homes for the 10,000, which seems pretty challenging. 10,000 of them survived. And, as he points out, there are plenty of other stories that are like this. And he just goes into a lot of the problems with transport, not just of the fact that they stick chicks in the mail. Just makes me insane.
I did post this when it
Yeah.
originally
Yeah. It was kind of
came
got a
out
lot of press.
because I do think people don't realize that that's standard practice.
Yeah.
Well,
And also, they don't think, the point he makes here is that they don't think about, they think maybe about slaughterhouses. They think slaughterhouses are bad. They don't really think about factory farms as much, though they have to if they're going to understand anything. And I think they do more than they used to. But they really don't think of transport. And loads and loads and loads of animals die in transport.
Transport also isn't really a consideration for people who like to buy their meat local. They don't think about the transport issue.
Well, they still have to be transferred from one place to another. Apparently, 33.8 million chickens died in transport in 2024. Those are just the ones who died in transport.
All right, let's move to something
just
good.
To cheer you up. All right, the other articles are good.
In New York City's public hospitals, a quiet revolution is underway. Over the past 2 years, more than 1.2 million plant-based meals have been served to patients, making vegetarian options the default choice across all 11 facilities. So exciting. It's not just about dietary restrictions. It's about nourishing, culturally diverse meals that truly resonate with this like rich tapestry of communities. Why did you choose this article?
Well, because it was good news. And I love this project. This is, of course, Katie Cantrell, who's been on the podcast. And this article is by Michael Grunwald. And it was originally published on Canary, but I got it off of Sentient. Sometimes they republish really interesting articles from other outlets. And yeah, I mean, I guess we've talked about this before because we talked about it with Katie, but it's just, I'd love to see New York City doing something so great. Mayor Adams had a few problems. He's not that popular right now, but he gets credit for this. Yeah, he was on our hen house and he gets credit for this. So, like you were saying before, people aren't all one thing or another. And this is an extraordinary program. It's basically based on this idea of default architecture, and just they offer people a plant-based meal, and all of the menus sound great. They work really hard to make them delicious. It's mostly Sodexo, I think, is the company that services the hospitals. And that if they don't take the first choice, they have a vegan second choice. And if then they don't take that, there's one with meat. Or if they specifically ask for meat. But most people don't. And most people like the food and they say it's great. People go with the flow.
They sure do.
Yeah. And
it usually doesn't work.
So we're just changing the flow. This is the exact opposite of calling out people for being evil. And this is much more successful than my activism, I have to say. Yeah. It's not even bringing to people's attention what they are eating or why. I wanted to read this one line. The guy who wrote this article, even though it was published on Sentient Media, as I mentioned, he didn't write it for them. And he is not vegan, I'm pretty sure. And he's coming out with a big book that's about the food system that's angry. But this line just drove me crazy. While vegan activists have mostly failed to get us to ditch meat through education campaigns and yelling, and biotech entrepreneurs have mostly failed to convert us to plant-based substitutes designed to mimic meat, bureaucrats working for embattled Mayor Eric Adams have engineered a radical dietary shift. Now, that's very positive, but I think that vegan activists have done a good deal more than education campaigns and yelling. Like, fuck
Couple
you.
more.
And the invention of plant-based substitutes, yeah, they're struggling because they've been like buried in hostility by the meat industry, which has been very successful. But, they are part of the puzzle, and I really think things are going to change. I listened to Neil Zacharias's interview with Ethan Brown from Beyond Meat. Beyond Meat is really struggling. It was really a beautiful interview, and I loved it. I highly recommend it.
Ooh, let's link to it in the show notes. I
Okay.
love Nil and everything he does.
All right, next article.
Let me tell you why I'm so excited about this one. Because the other day at the grocery store, I bought pistachio milk. And
You
this was
did.
just
I
like
want it.
this
I
was
want
a
it.
normal grocery store. This was not like a Tony grocery store. And do you remember when like ordering a soy latte felt like a radical act? Do you remember how exciting it was, especially when we would drive across the country and like we would see a Starbucks? So it's kind of the only place you could get non-dairy
Yeah.
milk, and there was a
Yeah.
huge upcharge, of course. But now plant-based milks are the norm, and the dairy aisle is undergoing a renaissance.
Yeah, no, this is a great article. It's from Vogue. It's a couple months ago by Katie Stone. A new generation of non-dairy milks is on the rise. I just liked the tone of the article, and it's just uplifting. Like every trend arc, she says, we're now starting to see a new generation of fringe dairy alternatives emerge, and she has pistachio is one of them, and there are these fermented milks, and macadamia and cashew, those have been around for a while. They have carved out their own niches, while lesser-known alternatives like pecan and walnut, I love walnut milk, are finding their footing. For those avoiding nuts altogether, Latini sunflower seed milk, it was just very nice. Like, it's so completely like we're there. There's this huge variety, and they're very fashionable, and they're in vogue. And I just thought that it was kind of an uplifting article.
This is also uplifting. I watched this show on YouTube called SciShow, SCI Show, and it's all about science, which I know is not like is probably shocking to hear me talking about it, but it's like fascinating to me. I love it. And they did an episode about it was called The Meatless Meats of the Future.
Oh, it's good,
And
yeah.
it was about
But why not of now?
But it was about innovation. It wasn't about the vegan meats that currently exist. It was about seaweed and like just all of these things that you wouldn't necessarily think of. And it did talk about the meatless meats of now as well and why that works for some people and doesn't work for others. So it's always fun to just come across something, like that. When I went to the baby shower the other day, I wish that I knew about this new book because there's a new children's book that is quietly radical and it's called Free Bird. And it's written by Christine Mott and illustrated by Afra Leila Isler. And it tells the true story of Flacco, the Eurasian eagle owl who escaped from the Central Park Zoo and found freedom in the skies over New York City. I love this. This is
Yeah,
really
I
cool.
actually know Christine Mott a little bit because we both used to be on the New York City Bar Association Animal Law Committee. She is a lawyer. This is published by Lantern, our beloved Lantern Books, and it looks great. The illustrations, which you can see from this article, which is a review of it by Jordi Casamajana. I haven't actually gotten the book yet. It really just came out. It looks great. The illustrations look beautiful. Apparently, according to this review, it's really super animal friendly. The proceeds benefit the Wild Bird Fund. And animal friendly in a way that even though they don't talk about veganism, according to this review, it encompasses like a holistic view of animals and would inspire anybody. I'll just read the end. Overall, I thought the book was very good. It is educational, it is pleasant, it is informative, it is fun. And it is about the real world. It's about the freedom that non-human animals exploited by humans dream about, and how sometimes such dreams become a reality. A message of hope for all the vegans like me dreaming in the vegan world of the future, where everyone will be free. I wish my parents had read me this book when I was a child. So it sounds really good, and I just thought people would want to know about it.
The reason I said I wish I knew about it before the baby shower was because we had to bring a baby book with us, or a child's book.
Yeah.
But I did get a book for them called Baby Vegan, and I just looked it up, and it's by Jennifer Eckford. So it's nice that these books are out there too. I love that line that you just said about how I wish that I had this when I was a child. I really loved the book The Giving Tree, but I think there's something kind of messed up about it.
I don't know the book.
All right. Well, it's about a tree that keeps giving and giving and giving, and like at the end has nothing left, just a stump. And
That sounds awful.
I think there's something nice happens at the end. I don't remember.
There's got to be more to it than that.
No, but like the tree gave you fruit, and the tree gave you shade, and the tree gave you like a
Well, it does
place
seem like
to
the
climb.
theme though is if you give a lot, you will end up a stump with nothing.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. But it does also seem like everyone in my generation grew up with this book, and probably the generations after me too. And it just seems like that's what we do to Mother Nature. We just take and take and take until there's nothing left.
Totally.
I wish I had this book instead. Anyway, before we close, tease out what we have tomorrow. Why don't you do that with our interview tomorrow?
Yes, it's a great interview. It's one of our series of interviews with the Animal Policy Alliance and their efforts to obtain all sorts of legislation across the country. And we're going to be talking specifically about banning octopus farming. And these interviews are always with people who are on the ground locally working on efforts, and somebody from the Animal Policy Alliance. So on the ground in Washington State, where they have achieved such legislation, it's Amanda Fox, who is the executive director of the Animal Rights Initiative. And then we also talked to Allie Taylor, who's the president of Voters for Animal Rights in New York, and they're working on one of these bills, as are a lot of states around the country. This is one of the issues that, if you can get in there before the industry really gets a toehold, it's a lot easier to get it banned. And so much information about octopuses and about legislation in this interview. So I highly recommend it. Our third participant was Brenna Anderst, and she is the senior policy advisor at the Humane League.
While we're shouting out things that are coming up, we have an upcoming panel discussion called Roots and Rising, Connecting Grassroots Voices. We'll talk about what absolutely anyone can do to change the world for animals, no matter what their skills or experience. We're recording this Sunday, June 1st at 1 p.m. Eastern. The live audience is going to be the part of our flock known as the Squawk Squad, which is those who donate $25 a month or more. But of course, anyone can hear it on the podcast after the event. It will air on June 6th. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that sounds very cool.
Yeah. And so thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to our Hen House on your favorite podcatcher and or on YouTube, and leave a comment for us on YouTube or a review.
Well, as long as it's nice. Don't leave a mean comment.
On Apple Podcasts is another really great way to get people to tune in to our Hen House. So thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.